line is to claim our pictures after meeting him up there.
Dude, this makes up for 18 years ago.
That's the second person that's called me champ.
Oh, I love it. Called me 316.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, put a smile on my face. Oh.
That is a sweet camera.
Oh, you like this one?
Yeah.
It doesn't have a name. It's just called like the MXW3000.
Like 2.
Oh, yeah. Then I flipped down.
It sucks to take off that much school. It really fucked me out last time.
Yeah. School's for fools, man. This is WrestleMania. All right.
You can always fly out later.
Hey, what up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you. I can finally say that I am 100% back and recovered. I'm at 100% after that SummerSlam trip. That one day literally kicked my ass. I came back to work the next day, and it felt like an eternity. I went to bed almost right when I got home, came back to work the next day, and I felt twice as tired as I did the day before, but it was still worth it. I had a ton of fun down there. I got to meet one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, one of the most famous wrestlers. I think when everybody draws out their Mount Rushmore of wrestlers, I think Stone Cold Steve Austin sits on top. And honestly, he was one of those guys. I don't see it on the convention circuit a lot. You don't really see him popping up. This is the one time that I've really seen him hooked up with an access deal since he left the WWE. He's not one of those guys that comes back at WrestleMania and does them like Shawn Michaels does every year, or Mick Foley has done. Bret Hart does them a lot. I thought that honestly my shot at meeting Stone Cold Steve Austin was out the window in New Orleans when all of my buddies came to pick me up at the airport, and I missed out on missing Stone Cold Steve Austin by 15 minutes. And what do you know? I've had one of the most luckiest years of meeting wrestlers this year. I got to meet Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, Bret Hart, all at WrestleMania, come back. I meet Ric Flair once again at a convention in Newark, California in the Bay Area, and then I get to meet Stone Cold Steve Austin WrestleMania Sunday. Honestly, I'm going to say that I'm a big fan of his podcast. And my good buddy that went with me, Freaking Yeah88, I don't think he's listened to the show at all. And if he has, he hasn't listened to many. Most of the time, I just fill him in on the sort of, best of and the stories that come along with the way. I hint at him a lot that this is a show he needs to listen to. I really like the Stone Cold Steve Austin podcast. It sort of really connects with me. At first, I was listening to the show just because we hadn't seen Stone Cold Steve Austin on WWE TV in 3 years, and it was just fun to hear his voice talk about anything. And the way he connects is just like when he tells stories, I feel like me and him are sitting down in a room. Maybe we're sitting in a diner, sharing a hamburger or something like that, and it just feels like it's just him and me having a conversation. And he does great interviews with wrestlers where it just seems like sometimes his style is he doesn't go in there with any notes. He just sort of goes in there and he's got one question, maybe two questions that he knows he's going to ask along the way, and they just bullshit for an hour and a half, and whatever happens. If they end up at a place they want to be at, they do. Sometimes they end up way out in left field and they don't even know how they got there. But when it comes down to talking about Stone Cold Steve Austin's life, I've listened to well over a year of podcasts. I would guess I think he's over 120 episodes with the regular show and the Unleashed show. His DVD is one of the best DVDs that WWE's ever put out. The one thing I love about it is that it spans over an entire career. Nothing is going to happen for Stone Cold Steve Austin in the wrestling business that would need to be tacked onto that. The Rock's DVD documentary came out. It came out right before WrestleMania 28, so you don't even really get one of the biggest matches, let alone the rematch from WrestleMania 29. The stuff with CM Punk, that big comeback, his last title run. That's gonna be stuff that people are always gonna be clamoring for, more behind the scenes sort of stuff. And what was it like for him really to come back? We got to see, the push for WrestleMania 27 in there for him to come back as a special guest referee, and the promise of WrestleMania 28 being great, but it just wasn't there. That's why Stone Cold Steve Austin's DVD always will sit at one of the top spots in my countdown. But from listening to all that, going to the confidential, panel, the SummerSlam confidential panel, which I hope they recorded, and I hope comes out on the network or comes out on the DVD or something like that along the way. I thought that was a lot of fun. I knew going in that I knew I was going to know a lot of the stories, but for the same reason I listened to the podcast, I think the $200 for the VIP ticket at the Steve Austin show was a good deal. When I got to meet Hulk Hogan, I got to get into Access. I got to, meet a few other people. I met the Matadors. I met Three Man Band. I met I can't remember who else I met. If I was lucky enough to meet Roman Reigns, I think I met Roman Reigns right after I met Hulk Hogan. So, I only got a minute of Hulk Hogan's time, which is it was well worth it. One of my favorite wrestlers of all time. I almost cried when I met Hogan. So it shows you that I would have paid whatever I had to pay. But, just to get a picture with Stone Cold Steve Austin and get to listen to a 2-hour show with him and the King talking about his career, I thought was a steal. There's some people out there who don't really care about that stuff. I haven't listened to Miguel's review, if he's even made one about his weekend. But his instant review is he sent me a text during the show is that he paid $200 for a picture with Austin. He said that, basically... he has the DVD. He knew a lot of those things along the way. The question and answer portion of the show I thought was going to be really fun. I can tell that a lot of people were really, really nervous. It took one guy like 3 times of telling Austin that it was very awesome that he was actually getting the chance to meet him today. And they thanked him like 4 times for being there, a lot of stuff like that. One of the best questions was asked about the Stone Cold belt that came out along the way. It was about asking how much of the input did he have on that title coming out and telling the story about, it was actually the Road Warriors who had the idea of saying, you're bigger than WWF, you need to have your own title. And that's where the whole idea started rolling from. It was cool to see Austin get choked up twice. One guy just asked him, what is the best day of your life that you can think of? And he talked about, the birth of his daughters. And then he talked about the day that his dad got his clean bill of health, where he had beaten tongue cancer. And that was also, it wasn't on the confidential thing, but it also was a big part of his show. He brings up that was what led to him, quitting chewing tobacco. And you can see that him get choked up. Jerry Lawler asked him about the Owen Hart situation and how his feelings with Owen after the whole deal, and he sort of got choked up because he was sort of trying to not make Owen look so bad, but he was also trying to get the point across is that, Owen messed up. It was a bad day at the office, but, Owen never really reached out to Austin to make sure he was all right. He never apologized. He didn't, send a card or a letter. He didn't call. He didn't visit. I can easily see that creates a sore spot between 2 guys in the locker room. You can see that, Austin sort of got choked up about that. That was worth it. I mean, I got to sit second row, and I was amused almost the whole time. I was into it. I popped when a little kid mentioned that he liked Prince Devitt, he liked Kenta, he liked Kevin Steen, and he wanted to know who Steve Austin was really looking forward to at these guys at the Performance Center about who was going to be the guy of the future. Once it came down to business and I got to get up on stage, they were really strict about no autographs. There was one guy who wanted Stone Cold Steve Austin to sign his arm to get it tattooed on. A couple of people asked to get their belt signed. It wasn't even Austin that said no. It was WWE security and the Nokia Live people who stepped in and said no autographs. This isn't an autograph signing. There was even one point when the head of WWE security, she came up to us in a group before we met, and she said, please respect me. I'm head of security. This is not an autograph session. Please do not waste your time asking for an autograph, because then you're going to have to answer to me. And basically, I didn't want anything. I put my book away that I had wanted to get signed. I thought I was going to be slick and asked to get signed. Nobody else really seemed like they had anything out. But I saw one of the belt guys get shot down, and I was really hoping for the guy behind me to get the Stone Cold Steve Austin tattoo. So I handed him my Sharpie, and I said good luck, and it didn't work out. Stone Cold Steve Austin said, you don't want that stuff tattooed on your arm. You don't want to keep that forever. Shot him down to his face. But we got the Steve Austin poster, which I gave to Miguel because I forgot my damn poster tube, and I'll catch up with him somewhere along the way, and I'll get that back from him. But we got that. We got an awesome picture which they actually printed out and handed you, an 8x10 to carry around for the rest of the day. I thought that was really cool. It's the first time I've done that. They also gave you a link to go online and get a digital download, where you can put that up on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram and say, I'm better than you. I met Stone Cold Steve Austin. But Austin will go down as one of the nicest guys I've ever met. As I was waiting in line and I was next, basically Stone Cold Steve Austin met a person in front of me, and he liked his Stone Cold Steve Austin shirt. It was one he hadn't seen in a while. It just said Austin SOB, and it had some skulls on it, but Austin said, I want a picture of that. So they took the real picture. Austin whipped out his iPhone and he was taking a picture of it. The whole time WWE security is yelling at me about why I'm not taking my spot in line and getting up, because I'm like, he's taking a fucking picture of the guy's shirt. I'm not going to rush this special moment between this guy and Austin when he doesn't want me up there yet. So he took the picture, and I think Austin heard everybody was bitching and moaning, and I was trying to let the other guy have his time. He turned around, he looked at me, and he goes, all right, 316, get on over here, with a big old smile on his face. And we took the picture. It turned out nice. Honestly, when we were waiting for the picture to come out, I didn't even know what I did in the picture. I'm pointing at him, I'm like, look, it's fucking Stone Cold Steve Austin, and he's got a big old smile on his face. But that was mostly because as they were taking the picture, I wanted to tell this whole long story about how basically I thought Brock Lesnar was going to rip John Cena's arm off and beat him with it during the match, and I was wondering if I could tie that in with the Dusty Rhodes story that Stone Cold Steve Austin tells on the podcast about how they were sitting there watching wrestling as a kid, and his mom was sitting in a chair behind him reading a Red Book magazine, and Austin is watching the show, and Dusty Rhodes is getting the shit kicked out of him in the middle of the ring, and there's a cop sitting there is security on the front row behind the guardrail, and Austin asks his mom, hey mom, why isn't that security guard going to get in there and help Dusty? I mean, Dusty needs help. Look at him, he's getting beat on. And his mom looked down from his magazine, glared at the TV, glared at Steve, and didn't have the heart to tell him that it wasn't real. Went back to reading her magazine and just left Steve in doubt about who was going to help Dusty Rhodes. And so I only got the Dusty Rhodes part out, and I told him that was one of my favorite things, one of my favorite stories from the podcast. I wasn't going to sit there and tell him that, I love the podcast, but I think everybody groans when we tell the same story for the 17th time. It's just what he does, and I love the podcast. I think I gave it number 3 on my top 5 wrestling podcasts, with Cheap Heat Radio, with the Wrestling Observer stuff. But honestly, sitting there right there at number 3. Every time a new one rolls out, I'm always sure to listen to it in the first day, if not on the second day. It's one of those ones that I can't miss. So thank you, Stone Cold Steve Austin. I had an awesome time meeting you. You will always be one of my top 5 favorite wrestlers that I've ever met. And thank you very much for just being an awesome dude. I think everybody in line had a great experience meeting you, and when we go to these access deals and we pay the money to meet you, we don't always get the best stories when we walk away from meeting our legends and our heroes. So thank you for being a stand-up class act dude. I'm talking to him like he's watching, but thanks, Austin. Peace out.